it's very moving, and from what I can tell, because it's such a story of the beauty, the joy, the discipline of being an artist, in a way, it seems like it must be very close to Miyazaki-san's own heart. It's hard to believe that this might be the last film we see from him. Is that actually true? Is he retiring?
I can only tell you what he's told us and what he's told the world. We had a press conference last Friday when he spoke himself, and he said this is his last feature film.
It's terrible. It is a masterwork, so it's at least good that we have this remarkable film from him. You work at the Studio Ghibli offices in Tokyo. You work very closely with Miyazaki-san on this film. Can you tell us a little bit about the origins of the project?
Well, it goes back to his interest in two people, Jiro Horikoshi, who is pretty much the Jabusi in the film, and Tatsuo Hori, who wrote a book called Kazutachigun in Japanese, The Wind is Rising in English, Le Vent se lève in French. And Jiro is an amalgam of those two people. And there he wrote Tatsuo Hori wrote a book called Naoko about a woman, much like this. And he also would live in the same area. They lived at almost exactly the same period of time. We actually created a timeline for the film with the two men and Jiro and the world events and they match up very well. And there were, one of the biggest challenges for Tatsuo Hori was tuberculosis. So that's very much part of the story of the film. And I think we know Miyazaki-san is very interested in planes, wind and water, and this just really spoke to him, I think.
Thank you. We have some time for your questions. Jeff has worked very closely on this film, is involved also in the North American release of the film. So if you've got anything at all to do with the production, any questions at all to do with the production of the film, I think you can, certainly direct them to Jeff. Yes, right there.
First of all, the word that comes to mind with this film is elegant. It's just so elegant, and it really, I appreciated the sound and the way that it sounded. The planes were so densely layered in sound. There seemed to be vocalizations and instrumentation underneath the sound of the planes. I was just wondering about like the creation of the emotion of the planes and the emotion of spaces with sound, how that was created.
The question is about the sound particularly, mentioning that it's a very elegant film, there's very complex sound work in terms of the layering of the planes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, the sound is actually one of my favorite topics, but I should tell you, my primary role is the subtitles and the dubbing. And so I get to know the film through working on the script and the dub, but along the way we spent a lot of time talking about the sound. I'm glad you like the sound. Did you all notice the full surround sound? Right there, one speaker. It's a mono film. Miyazaki-san wanted to go back to simplicity, wanted the idea of when you shoot a film a long time ago, they would have one mic, there could be people everywhere. He didn't want every pencil dropping, falling on a table, and every light being turned on to have a sound. And one of the things they wanted to do was to voice all the sound effects. Now, he wanted to do it, and his staff said no. He was busy enough. But the airplanes, the trains, let's put this piece of paper so I can demonstrate what I want to show. When the trains go over a trestle, you might notice, and of course the earthquake. Those are all voiced by one person, our sound designer. The opening airplane, all that was done by one sound designer, who is not a sound effects guy. We're really not do that anymore.
He's doing all of that with his voice. It's amazing.
When you watch the film a lot, you play it a lot. And as far as the elegance and simplicity, that was really a goal of Miyazaki-san. I'm sorry, I can't quite see where you are because of the lights there, thank you. That was really a goal of Miyazaki-san. And when you have one speaker, you don't have a lot of oral with an A, you don't have a lot of oral headspace to work in. And Hisashi Joe, who is the musician, the composer for the film, got a lot of, let's just say, discussions with Miyazaki-san about the sound, because he wanted to put music here, there, and everywhere, and there wasn't room for it. And the sound team said this was the absolute hardest film. Well, I shouldn't say that. They said it was a very hard film for them because they didn't have much space. And another thing that we deal with a lot, especially in the dub, are all the voices in the background and all the things happening. You may notice like the bullies at the beginning, they're down there just going like this. Because there was also the sense that Jiro really lives in his own space, in his own world, and that was how it. I'm glad you find it elegant. I love it, absolutely. And no one seems to notice it's mono until I tell them. So I'm sorry for the
Dolby. You don't get to hear mono very often.
No, I always feel bad for the Dolby guys with their logo up on the screen. Sorry.
Okay, we have a lot of questions. Let's get to as many as we can. Back here, yes?
I was very glad to see the movie in original language with subtitles. Are you planning a dubbed English language release and you have different actors cast for that?
The question is about, will there be a dubbed English language release and do you have actors cast?
I am so glad you asked. This is my chance to make my little speech. So thank you for the question. Yes, that was obviously the Japanese with English subtitles. We are planning an English dub, as we do for North America, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and actually interesting in the Middle East that we watch in English. And we are working with a team that's kind of come together over the years. Frank Marshall is the executive producer, I'm the producer. Gary Rydstrom, who some of you may know, is our director. And we're working on it now. We're just casting now. I won't tell you some of the casting ideas, but we're able to attract some really wonderful talent. And my little speech on dubbing and subbing, there's a real battle out there about dub versus sub. It's like a religious war.
We have that battle in this room.
I'm guessing we have a lot of subbed folks in here today. So what I would suggest is watching. A lot of people say they're a purist, and I'm hearing this a lot. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. Frank and I actually got in a bit of an argument about it. If you're a purist, you say you want to watch the original Miyazaki, which you did, and you're listening to the original voices, which you did, but you're reading Jim's and Reiko's and my subtitles, which are okay. And you're also not watching as much of the film as you might want to. And animation, I think, is particularly important because nothing appears on an animated screen by accident. If I go like this with my hand, there'll be shadows, there'll be dust, it'll happen automatically, and gravity and things like that. But on a screen, on an animation, nothing like that happens. So even if you're a purist, and I understand it completely, I watched, for example, when I watched The Untouchables last year, The Intouchables, I wanted to watch it in French, I don't speak a word of French. But I also encourage you to watch the dub. It's a Studio Ghibli production. Disney is a wonderful partner and a terrific distribution partner, but it's a Studio Ghibli production, and we're very, very proud of that. And we put in the budget of a medium-sized or small medium-sized film to make that dub. So purists, just maybe give it a chance, especially, my first one was Poppy Hill, and I think it came out quite nice. I'm proud of it. And I think this is going to come out wonderful as well. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I encourage you to enjoy watching the film completely. Or, as Miyazaki-san would suggest, please learn Japanese and watch it.
Question is, how much is lost in translation with the subtitles?
That's a great question. Thank you. For those of you who've had the experience of studying Japanese, maybe Chinese, I also hear Russian. The language don't miss a line a little, they miss a line a lot. There aren't that many things that really are exactly the same. I mean, only words, kind of real-life objects that translate directly. So invariably something's lost. The harder thing with subtitles is not the translation. The harder thing with subtitles is it only goes from there to there. So back there to there. And that's a very small space. And we do it down to the tenths of a second. We do it on the frame, add a frame here, add a frame there. So we are dealing with that constriction. Of course, everybody does, it's not just us. And then you have the language structure is completely different. I don't think much is lost. I personally think much is lost. We spend months, I suppose about 3 months, on the translation. We translate the script first into what we call a reference translation, which has no consideration for lip flop, no consideration for length, just pure translation. And that's what we research the film and get all the answers. Then we create the subtitles. I don't think much is lost. We do drop a lot of long names that aren't used more than once or twice because they're not useful, or a place name, we put Ueno in twice instead of Ueno and Guisanani, because if you really think of Guisanani, probably not, it won't come up again. I think it's very, very close. Certainly the spirit is all there.
If we have time for just 1 or 2 more questions, we're going to go up to the balcony. animated up there. It's hard for me to see you, but go ahead.
Yes.
Yep.
I've heard from previous news reports that Miyazaki-san actually used RC remote control planes for some of the models, some of the plane models that are actually seen in the film to give their animators reference at the studio. Is that true?
The question is about did Miyazaki-san use remote control planes for some of the models?
You have great information. Could you go on the Wikipedia page and clean it up? Yeah, we have a lot. I wasn't able to see them, but there were a lot of photographs around the studio of remote control planes or just models. The Caproni plane with the many wings and the many levels. There was a model, I think it was about this big. It took out to a pond or a lake and tried to fly it. Yes. Before the next question, I'd just like to announce some of the release dates, if that's okay. So for France, we're going to open on January 15th. And it will be subbed and dubbed. In North America, there will be an Academy run in New York and Los Angeles, make sure I get this right, from November 8th through November 14th. That will be subbed, because we'll be working on the dub. And also a lot of people like to watch original Japanese. And then there'll be a limited release on February 21st, and a week later an expanded release in North America. And that will be certainly dubbed, and I'm strongly encouraging Disney. I think they will also release stuff as well. It's actually much easier these days because it's all in one package, one digital package. So it's a lot easier to distribute. So those are the
Great news, thank you. You're the first to hear those release dates.
Very first.